Hey, good morning. You caught me here. Hi, I'm in my studio here in Mexico, high above the city, and working on my painting. Welcome. Nice to have you. Good to see you. It's been a while. Well, I got a message from Paul Elliott asking if I would send a message for Beverly as she makes this next transition. I want to say my pleasure to do so because Beverly, I love you. I love your work. Appreciate you. I appreciate your generous heart, your kind and tender, generous heart, your compassion, your ability to listen, to be quiet, to listen to people, not just to talk to people, but to listen, to be present. And you practice that in your ministry with me, thankfully. And you taught me also a lot about how to be in relationship with other people. I want to thank you for that. Also, your love and care for the children, for the youth, the adults, and the multitude of people that we cared for as they lay dying, that we were there, and you were there. And so I am very grateful to have known you in this ministry, to have worked alongside of you, and your ability to wrestle with difficult questions, even when there were no answers, and to stay faithful. So thank you, Beverly. Love you. I'm wishing you well in this next transition, and also wishing the best for St. Bartholomew's as it moves into its good future. Take care. And come visit. We're not that far. Bye.
Roberts. I have to say that one of the several things I love about Bev is the question she's always asking in my classes. John, she will pipe up, so what? So what if Paul was or was not a Roman citizen? Or she'll say, John, what does it really matter if the school of Shammai disagreed with the school of Hillel? I revel in the byways, the scholarly footnotes and details, but Bev is always pulling me back to the interstate highway. And my classes have been better for it. Now I'm going to have to imagine Bev sitting in the classroom interrupting, John, so what? Thank you, dear Bev.
Beverly, yours was the first face that I saw when John and I came to transfer our membership to St. Bartholomew's. The warmth of your welcome made me feel at home immediately. And through the years, we've worked together on the Adult Formation Committee, shared encouragement for healing, both physical and spiritual injuries, and laughed together. Oh my, that has the greatest power of healing. For me, you have been the heartbeat of our community, and I am so grateful to have the grace of you in my life.
I am grateful for all of Bev's ministry. It seems to me that I would compare her to the Trinity, because she has these three distinct, wonderful aspects. And I would think her first aspect is her deep faith, which she models for others. But it's not a blind faith. It's a questioning, kind of engaging kind of faith, which is so refreshing and wonderful and affirming. And then a second aspect for me of Beverly is her deep caring for other people, really sincere, deep concern for others, and her ability to connect and to listen so deeply. And a third aspect of her personality and ministry for me has always been her fantastic good humor. She's funny, and I appreciate all those things about her. I admire everything. I admire her style a lot. I admire how Beverly seems comfortable to be Beverly, I never felt like there was any barriers that, I mean, she's respectful of boundaries, but I never felt any barriers when I was with her, that I could say anything and it would be fair game to talk about it. I feel I'm different in an important way in that Beverly discovered that I had something to give, and I had been, what did she say, hiding in the weeds, and she encouraged me to come to the surface, be more generous with what I had to give, and it was fun. I think so many people, when speaking about Beverly, would lead with, "Oh, she's so wonderful. I love her. I love Beverly." That's what people say, and then they go on to enumerate how they love her. And I think probably different people love her in different ways, and they've maybe noticed different things about her, but I think she's brought a really important pastoral care feeling to the parish. I think that her ministry was one at St Barts where we all matter. We all matter, and it felt like she cherished us. She found ways to cherish us all, and it's really good to be cherished. I like being cherished, and I cherish Beverly. And Paul.
Beverly arrived at St Barts at the time that Dr. Jim Curtis was the interim rector. I remember how glad Dr. Curtis was that she had come to join us, and how enthusiastic he was about her gifts, her talents, and her warmth and affection for parishioners. I remember too her ordination, a beautiful service, and the preacher was Dr. Paul Elliott, and it was, if my memory is correct, just before he was to do his final dissertation for his PhD. Over the years, it has been wonderful to participate in some of the activities organised by Beverly. Her background of nursing has stood her in excellent stead to care for people and to know quite a lot about how they're getting on, how they're looking, how they're behaving, how their general demeanour seems to be. In particular, the caregivers' luncheons were a wonderful help to me. I found it such a relief to have a safe place to talk about what I was facing in the decline of my husband, as he was suffering from dementia as well as physical decline. And things that come to mind of very special note were the dedication of the Austin Ford Garden. That was a service conducted by Dr. Curtis and Beverly. The other things that have been always very nice contacts and left wonderful memories with the fact that Bev was so appreciative about the Flower Guild and our efforts to create appropriate arrangements. to the church, the parish hall sometimes, the inner narthex, the chapel. My fondest memories and admiration.
I am especially grateful for your having recruited me all those years ago to work with Hugh in Rite 13. I remember with gratitude your organizing us and assisting us in the venture to help the folks in Long Beach after Hurricane Katrina. I rejoice that you taught me about centering prayer, which has continued to be helpful until now. I remember the grace and comfort you offered in many funeral homilies and your obvious delight in introducing the newly baptized. The years of the caregiver support group have sustained many, including me when Gary was so sick. And what a surprise and joy it was to have a visit from you while I was briefly in hospital a year ago. I know your visits have meant so much to others who have been sick or dying. There's so much more. But as much as you've done, it's who you've been and are that we will continue to cherish, even in your absence. Many blessings.
Beverly, this is Mary Neal Jacob. I wanted to thank you for all you do and all you have done for St. Barts. And I came here because I came to St. Barts a long time ago before I was a member to a workshop. It was either centering prayer or on the labyrinth, I can't remember. And you didn't conduct the workshop, but you spoke to us and you were so engaging and friendly. I decided I wanted to get to know you. The only way I could know you was to join St. Barts, so I did. And I will miss you very much, miss you and Paul both. I love you. Thank you.
I'm grateful for the depth of her intellectual and spiritual knowledge. I mean, she really is so knowledgeable, and she brings such a perspective, rich perspective to the teachings here at the church. I admire her outgoing spirit, her compassion, her ability to focus on each and every one of us and to show us how much we love each other. Well, I think that she's been a powerful witness of what it's like to live a Christ-like life, and I like emulating that. And the way it's comes out is all the adversities throughout of her life, her health issues, Paul's health issues. She takes it all in. She trusts in the Lord, and she shows us that all will be well. She's pulled us together. She keeps us together, and she has this joie de vivre that she passes along to all of us.
So Bev, I'm sure everybody says you're the rock of the church and you've been here the whole time, which is true. Through the lives and passing of my parents, you have always been there. I consider you both plain-spoken and rather middle-class Australian, but deeply involved in your mind of the life of Christ. And that's what comes through your sermons, again with the accent, a little difficult to understand at times. But the sincerity was always there. And I'll miss you. I wish I could do more for you and Paul. I had one instance where I brought you some Australian food from the bakery, but I wish you both well. And we'll miss you. You've been a big part of the whole tangle of curls, of which there are many. Thanks so much. God bless.
We'll do a little test here first.
Okay.
So Sally, you know, some people don't know you. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so my name's Sally Williams. I'm the daughter of Susan and Lauren. Grew up in St Barts Church my entire life until I moved away for college.
And what do you remember about Kids for Peace?
So I was given the opportunity to go up to Camp Michael when I was 15, 16 years ago, to go meet some of our Peace Pals coming all the way from Jerusalem, from Palestine. My Peace Pal was Michal, and you know, I was able to have a great time with them, playing around, kids at camp, just like everybody else. And then over the years after that, I was able to volunteer with the program a bit, creating some food for some of the further camps when I was in college, and meeting up with some of those guys that I met when I was 11. So Dad, what does this have to do with Rev Bev?
Well, Beverly brought Kids for Peace to St. Bartholomew's Church. She came to Susan and I and asked us if our daughter Sally would like to participate in a program at Camp Michael that had to do with peace in the Middle East.
So why do you think this is important to bring up in kind of the memories of Rev Bev?
Well, I think this is one of the things that she brought to St. Bartholomew's and sort of brought to me and our family that has been really important. I worked with Kids for Peace on the board for a number of years after we got introduced to it and met some wonderful, incredible people that are participating in the program. And Susan volunteered for many of the summers to help prepare food and assist with programs where she could. And it was an opportunity for us to get to know a lot of important people, a lot of people that we respect a lot, learn a lot about Judaism and Jewish communities in Atlanta and Islam and Muslim communities in Atlanta. So I credit Beverly with bringing those experiences to St. Barts and to our family.
I'm grateful for Bev's honesty and willingness to be vulnerable in sharing her own faith journey. I give thanks for her love and support. She has a great sense of humor, and it's very enjoyable to be with her. I admire her sincerity, her interest in people, her ability to reach out to those who are ill or suffering in some way, knowing how to help people who are struggling with life issues. Bev made me feel very welcome when I came to St. Barts. She answered questions like, "Who's the person with the stick at the beginning of the procession in church?" She encouraged faith questions, particularly in our Living the Questions study. She introduced me to centering prayer and taught those of us who joined her each Tuesday how transformative the practice can be. She's excelled in providing pastoral care to parishioners and their families. She helped organize and lead our Sunflower Connections ministry, providing training for Sunflower Companions to share a listening ministry. She has provided support for caregivers and planned training for ministering to people with dementia. She's been one of the main reasons that St. Bartholomew's is my best home and my best church family. I don't think she knows how much she is loved and admired and respected. Love you, Bev. I give thanks to God for the gift that you are.
Over the years, her parental work, all the time she came to see me, all the time she has been there for me. I mean, really, I could tell it. And she cared so much for her congregation. And they were her congregation too, of course. And she would have been my first choice for rector when Mac left. Well, her personality, she's always friendly with everybody, and she has nice, interesting things to say to everybody. Well, I just look forward to seeing her each Sunday. I was here, and I go to the Sunday night service. I'm a regular at the Sunday night service. And I love the fact that she brought her own music in there so that we would have some music at that service. And she has all these nice touches that she gives us. I can't say what they are right now because I always think of something after later. But I really love her very much.
Hi, Bev. Thank you. Thank you for being you. I'm so grateful to have been able to learn and grow from your guidance, your example, and your openness. You challenged me to challenge my belief system, and in so doing, I was led on a path of spiritual discovery. You are a wonderful example of a true spiritual leader. God provided you with a special gift that you shared with love, joy, and laughter here at St. Barts. I feel blessed to have been able to walk some of this worldly path with you. Thank you for everything you have given. May God continue to bless you, bless you, bless you. Love you.
Oh, dear Bev, what a gift it has been to be in ministry and to grow in my vocation with you as part of the staff and team in ministry at St. Bartholomew's over these past years. I've learned so much from you, and probably one of the most important things is that it really only takes one set of keys on a Sunday morning for everything that needs to happen, and to know that it may take several days, but whoever lost their keys will find them eventually, and they do show back up. You've taught me how important it is for us to sit and hear each other's stories, and so that we can listen together to hear what it is that God is nudging or calling us to know or to do. Not only our time together in the church and all of the different programs and formation and committees that we've been part of together as the formation team, but also our times on retreat, planning and working and playing and dancing, whether it's at Camp Michael or our staff retreats at Tybee Island, or even our time at the formation conference at Canoga. So many things to remember. Brad in that t-shirt, Lady Gaga showing up for the talent show, so much more. Through all of the things that life has given you in the time that I have known you and that we have been on this journey together, I have really taken to heart your ability to check in, let everybody on the team know where you are, so that when you need support, you can ask for it and we can care for you, and you graciously accept it. But you also listen to the other people that you work with, and so that when we need support and care, you're right there with us all the time, modeling for the parish what it means to really offer pastoral care to one another. For St. Bartholomew's, you've journeyed with the community in prayer, sharing meals, offering good questions for real conversation, and learning and exploring together what it is that we're being called to do and to be, so that we continue to grow. You've led us with prayers for each different thing that happens in our life, whether it's a child leaving for college, whether it is the loss of a family member. You're always there with gentle ways to remind us what to do, but in very public ways as a priest leading us in the liturgies and the rituals that go on Sunday mornings, but also the important things like burying the Alleluias, burning the palms, blessing our pets on St. Francis Day, and so much more. You've taught us that we need to celebrate joy, process our grief, ask for forgiveness, and that we are always welcome at Christ's table. Because you know the story of the Good Shepherd, that once there was someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people followed him. And there are very special people who come to that table and share with all of the other people the words of the Good Shepherd. And St. Bartholomew's is blessed to have had you as their priest and to share those words. So we're excited to see where you are and the table at which you continue to share those words in your priesthood. I love you, Bev.
Hello, Beverly. I hope you're doing well. What's that? What's that you're saying? Where am I? Well, I am on a train in Mexico, parts unknown to me anyway, and I thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and maybe offer my wishes on your next journey, as this train is emblematic of, an era gone by when, before the jet engine, before the prop plane, folks got to see the country. And as you begin your next journey to parts unknown, I wish you the very, very best. Gosh, with your good humor, your good spirit, your contemplation as you do. I remember our trip to South Africa with the youth group. Oh, was that a blast? And there you were, as patient and spiritual. I, on the other hand, I enjoyed it very much, and I enjoyed our time together. And gosh, now those youth are adults with babies of their own. It was a great 15 years of knowing you. Hope to see you again soon. And I leave you with this just very, very brief video to let you know how much you meant to me, meant to Mac, meant to all of St. Barts, the whole St. Barts family. With you, wherever you go, we go with you in your heart, and and our spirits follow with you. Now, Beverly, shortly your train is going to depart, and get your bags packed, get to the station. Bon voyage on your next incredible journey, wherever life may lead you. You and Paul, with all my love, John.
Bev's ministry has made a world of difference in my life. She taught me to fall in love with parish life, to fall in love with the church, to fall more deeply in love with Christ. She taught me how to serve and to enjoy that service, to dig deeper into community. She helped me discern my own calling to ordained ministry as the years went by, and she has stood by me as friend and companion. And at this occasion of her retirement from St. Bartholomew's, I am filled with appreciation for her, and so much looking forward to seeing what God will do through this amazing woman next. I love you, Bev. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Adonis.
And I'm NG.
And we're just making this video to wish Rev Bev all the best in her next adventure. So, do you remember the first time you met Rev Bev?
No, because I feel like I've known her forever, but honestly, I think it was in 2015 when I came to visit from Houston, and I remember her big smile and her welcome embrace because she gave me a hug. So yeah, that was awesome, and it's been amazing ever since. She's been a wonderful and a lovely person, and I will definitely miss her. We will definitely miss her. And that's Noah in the background. So when did you start calling her Rev Bev?
So I think I always called her Rev Bev because I like how it rhymes. But then I realized from the invitation that to make this video that Father Paul calls her Rev Bev as well. So yep. That's awesome. I like that a lot. So great minds think alike, right? So both Father Paul and Rev Bev officiated at our wedding 2 years ago.
Yes, and it was amazing. I remember on the wedding day, I wasn't nervous. I was fine. And I remember asking Rev Bev, is that okay if I don't feel any butterflies in my tummy? And she was like, yeah, it's your wedding day. It's okay if you don't feel any different or lots of pressure. Just be you and be happy. And I really appreciate that. I still remember that up until today. And she was also there during our counseling sessions before we got married. And she was very helpful, very patient, very kind, very wise. And it was a privilege to have gone through the classes with her. And
so one of the things I would want to say about Rev Bev is she always makes everyone feel welcome. So Noah's always welcome at church when he's being noisy as he is right now. So I always appreciate her with that, being very accepting. And she calls me out when I don't show up to church, which I should try to do more of. But I come there, I think, regularly-ish. So thanks for all the advice that you've given us over these years, and it was awesome meeting you, getting to know you, and continuing to know you as you go along and do everything else you want to do.
Yes, and yeah, we will definitely miss you. Thank you so much for everything, and yeah, we love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Beverly, I'd like to offer my best wishes for you for the next chapter in your journey. It's been rewarding for me being part of your St. Barts experience. I'm especially grateful for how you helped me through two of the greatest crises I've faced. The loss of my mother in 2015 when you came to give her the last rites, and the death by hanging of my cousin last year. Your wisdom, insights, and empathy were remarkable for me and helped me through those very difficult times. Learning from you, the lesson for me is that every act of kindness has a power of its own. On the same theme, I'll always remember one of your jewels of wisdom that you would state at the end of a service where you were the celebrant. Make haste to be kind and be swift to love. Wise words indeed. In wishing you and Paul all the best, I'd like to read the coda from Maya Angelou's 1993 inaugural poem, On the Pulse of Morning, because I think it applies here. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out, and into your sister's eyes, into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Beverly is amazing because she's just so happy and cheerful all the time and is always looking out for everybody else. She genuinely is looking out for everyone and is so full of love all the time.
I'm just really grateful for Bev and everything she's done for the church and for our family and for being there when times are great or when times have been rough.
Mm-hmm. And what would you admire about Bev?
How she's just like a really caring and loving person, and that she really cares about everybody.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what difference do you think she made in your life over these years?
Well, I think she's like certainly made it a better one.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate how she's just. I really think it's been really nice that she's just always been there. That's been really important to me.
Okay.
Beverly, thinking of you today, sending you lots of love from Germany. I'm grateful for you, for your faithfulness, for your faithfulness to God, your love of all of the people at St. Bartholomew's and caring for them over many, many years. Enjoy this day.
I am so glad I ran into Beverly and Paul tonight at this Christmas party. I knew I would see them. I hope I will see them every so often for years to come, because they have been a wonderful part of my life since I joined the Episcopal Church. And Beverly has just been the most charming and comforting presence. Anytime you talk to her, it's like you're the only person in the world, and she's right there with you. And I'm going to miss her at St. Barts, but I hope I'm going to see her all around other places. We are not going to lose touch. I love you, Beverly.
I'm grateful for many things for her ministry, but the way some of these questions all go together. They're the same answer. She's the most hospitable, caring person I've ever known. She is present with you, no matter with whom she is. She is absolutely present with all sorts and conditions of people. I've seen her relate and connect with special needs people, with the elderly. I especially remember in our caregivers group, we had Claire with us for many years, who was in her 90s, living at the Towers. Very liberal and a conservative place. Bev gave her this button that said, old white lady for Barack Obama. And she got the large. That was such a gift. That was a huge gift to her to do that. But that's just a small example. And it's not just me. It's I don't know of anybody who doesn't feel the same way about her. As far as I'm concerned, what I admire about her, her inclusivity, is that a word? What a difference she made for me personally. She connected with my whole family. My husband was in a nursing home in Augusta, and she took communion, went with me to take communion to him about 10 days before he died. She did a going away service at my house for him when he was leaving. And for my special needs son, she did a going away service. And then the caregivers group that she facilitated for, I don't know, a long time. And it's still going and will continue to go. I think her inclusivity has made a difference in the church. I think we're more diverse. I think we're more open to all kinds of folks. And I think that's made a difference, because you cannot meet Bev without connecting. She, like you were saying, she's there. And that's huge and rare. I understand that's rare, that you can do that. She's greatly loved. That's the lasting contributions I think she made, and will continue to make because of her love and care.
Dear Beverly, it's hard to even think of the words to say what you've meant to me and my family. All through Fred's illness and his leaving us, you were there. You gave him last rites. He's buried on this property along with many of my very close friends. I've loved this church for over 40 years. I found it. I'm not a cradle Episcopalian, as you know. I found this. I loved the liturgy. I loved the dignity of the service. I loved the music, and it became my home. And you came here not too long thereafter. And I've known you since before you became a priest. And you have played an important part in my entire life, and this place will never be the same without you. I am so sorry that you have been made to feel uncomfortable here and that you're going to seek your ministry somewhere else. And you will be fine, and wherever you go, they will be blessed as we have been to have you. This is one of the worst days of my life, and I think of the church. I don't know of anything that's happened here that makes us as sad and feels us so neglected. But things will get better. I'm not leaving the church, but I'm not supporting a lot of things that are happening here. So hopefully there will be change. We love you. Never forget it. Hopefully someday our paths will cross again.
Hi, Bev. How are you? Thanks so much for all of the gifts that you've brought to St. Bartholomew's. In particular, you have that very endearing gift of personal connection. And for us as a family, we are so pleased that you were the one who baptized Erin Rose Johnson, who is really came of age in our church, and what a beautiful gift it was for you to be the priest who baptized her. I also want to thank you for coming to my endowed chair reception over at Emory and being present for me as I got a work accomplishment. It was really quite a privilege to have you there as one of my priests and ministers. And somebody commented after the reception, gee, you sure know a lot of priests. And that was just a real gift. So thank you for all of the gifts that you and your family have brought to St. Bartholomew's. They have touched us individually as the Johnson family, and we wish you and Paul all of the best on this next stage of your journey. Thanks again.
Hi, Beverly. This is Kathy Kulikowski, and first I want to say thank you, and I will always remember you putting the communion wafer in my hand, in my palm, and the smile that you would give me. And no matter what challenges I was going through in my life, at least for that moment, I felt at peace and that everything was okay. And I'll always remember that. Thank you so much. We'll miss you.
For me personally, it's also for my family,
Okay.
because she has just been a wonderful role model for our daughter Carter, and she baptized Carter's baby, which is so cool to
Yeah.
have several generations in one group, and just very calm presence and calming presence. Very grateful for that.
And what do you admire about her? Last night they said she's a fashion model, icon. I'm like, what? She got about 100 pairs of earrings.
Is it- Oh, okay, so what can I say? It's
And
the earrings,
Lady
they're just
Gaga
awesome.
at Parish Weekend.
No, well, she said that she can't sing, which surprises me, because at parish weekends, I've heard her sing camp songs and things, and maybe it's just not real lip syncing, so maybe it's not really, maybe
Well,
it's
she
a comfort
tried,
level
yeah.
too. I mean, it's,
Oh, she gets tense in a throat.
yeah, and if that happens, you can't
yeah,
sing.
but, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, admire boast. Again, it's her calm manner. She doesn't seem to get upset by things, or it doesn't show. I'm just very pastoral,
Yeah.
which heaven knows we have needed,
Yeah.
and it has been a real blessing
Yeah.
for this parish. I'm skipping ahead to question 4, aren't I?
Well, whatever. It's your story. Okay. So you say with that, how does it? What difference does it make to you? People like in 18 years you're here, and now you're here, so when you look back, some say, well, I learned this and I'm different because of that, so for you it could be or not, whatever, but it's not.
Some of the classes that she's taught, I think have really have allowed one to be introspective and to reflect on things, because I tend to go at breakneck pace most of the time, and it's nice to be able to sit down and reflect a minute and say, oh, okay, let's think about that. I've appreciated that.
And that covers the 4 fabulous points, right?
Okay, I guess it does. We will miss her awful.
Well, I found a friend, and we both worked for the church, and I working at an Episcopal nonprofit, and then in the bishop's office as the director of communications, and that gave us an opportunity and a need to be friends, because we could support each other in our different roles, but also keep some clear boundaries. And that was, I couldn't relate too much of what my work was doing, or sticky areas of where my work was. I had to learn to go to other professions. We maneuvered that well, and I always knew I had her back, or she had my back, excuse me, and I had hers. And so, in fact, I remember very vividly, I had an opportunity to make a change from the nonprofit, the Episcopal Media Center, over to the bishop's staff. And I was a little, I needed somebody to talk to about it, and we had 5 minutes. And this was on Maundy Thursday, a very busy night for her. And so she said, oh, okay, I have 5 minutes. And I said, okay, we were sitting here in this parish hall. And I told her in 5 minutes about the best thing she said was pay attention to your dreams and tonight. And so I did. I had a fabulous dream. And it laid it all out, that what I was doing was the right thing for me to do. And I was so grateful. And Bev has a great appreciation for dreams, and I appreciate that about her, and it was really a wonderful gift. Her kindness and ability to be vulnerable, and her ability to go to the extra mile. I noticed the vulnerability part early on, and I found it kind of a rarity among clergy, having worked around so many. And I knew she was the real deal, and it was a great gift. And the other story I remember, her ability to keep going and do the right thing. Or I had just finished, or was in the middle of cancer treatment on my 60th birthday, and my cousin was throwing a party over in Buckhead, about 6 miles away from here, on a, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday night, and Beverly would have had a long day, and she'd been invited, but she hadn't arrived yet. When the doorbell rang and she walked in, it was just like an angel walking in, and I knew how much she sacrificed to go in the opposite direction than she would have had to go home. And she came and was there, and I was thrilled and so grateful. So that's a memory, an example of what it meant to be a vulnerable leader in my work world. And I am so appreciative of that. And that's before Brene Brown started writing her books about vulnerability, but it was the ability to be honest and caring and devoted to a group of people, and that really connected with me. My arrival was about 3 years before her arrival here as a staff member, And so I don't have a lot of recollection of those years. So basically, it's been the way it's been. I do have some memories, and those memories before her were actually there was a distance between me and the clergy. Beverly was much more encompassing to not just me, but a whole field of people, and particularly for women. And you notice when we had last night's, almost all of them were women, and what she brought to us in claiming and expressing out loud feminine images of God.
Taking this on, and Beverly said, well, that's my job, isn't it? And I don't know, that's who Beverly is, you know.
I don't remember exactly what she said on this evening. It was right after Beverly came and kind of was leading the women's spirituality group with us. Another woman priest had left, and Beverly was trying to figure out how our group went. It was a large group. And I had not long before come from Arizona, where I knew a lot of priests because I had worked for 9 years for the Bishop of Arizona. And I'd known some priests, and they were always, I was so young and inexperienced at that time. I always thought, you know, they were always a step above me, you know, and some of them liked being there. But in fact, most of them liked being there, in my opinion. But Beverly was different, and that night she told a story and she made herself vulnerable. Well, I haven't seen many priests make themselves vulnerable like that. Like I said, I don't remember what she said, but we got a sense of who she was, and she had been on some difficult paths as well. And I thought, oh, this is somebody really different and really wonderful. And I was on her team beginning that night. Still there. Thank you. Thank you, Beverly. I love you.
It was one evening after the Christmas service of remembrance and healing. And I'd come because my mom, who was about 84 at the time, had suddenly become alcoholic, and I was devastated. And I had looked forward to having a life after retirement, and now I was going back and forth to Alabama almost every week. And I told Beverly, I said, Beverly, I keep praying to God. I keep listening for what God wants me to do, and I just don't hear it. And Beverly said, have you listened to the inner voice? A simple thing which I'm sure every one of you know. But for me, it was a huge step in my spiritual journey, and I'll always be grateful.
A year ago tomorrow, I was in a near-fatal automobile crash, and I broke I had 5 spinal fractures and 4 broken ribs, among other things. And some months later, after I was recuperating but still in a lot of pain, Bev came to my parents' house where I was staying at the time, and she said Mass for me. And she was just such a comfort, and I was still in a lot of pain, but she was just smiling and so cheerful, and she cheered me up, and I still remember that. I'll always remember that. It was a wonderful time.
I first met Beverly when she had only lived in Atlanta for 2 weeks, and she's become one of my dearest friends. And I feel like it was a grace-filled moment when I met her. And we were studying in a continuing ed course at Emory, and we watched her as she took the next few steps towards auditing a course, and then going on and asking if she might be able to audit a course in women's studies at Candler, and finally going through all the steps of her diaconate and ordination with her. And it was a wonderful thing for my friend Layla and me, being raised Roman Catholic, because she invited us every step along the way, and we participated in that, and it meant so much to both of us. And in 2010, with her mum, who came all the way from Australia, we led a trip to the Irish Isles. We had the most wonderful time. Some of you were on that trip with us. And I've led about 25 tours over the years, all for women. She was absolutely, positively the best partner I've ever partnered with on any of those tours. And one of the things that stands out for me most is at Glendalough. Have any of you ever been to Glendalough in Ireland? She said a mass in the ancient women's church there for all of us as we gathered around her. So there's so many happy memories, and I hope there are many more to be made. It's been over 25 years. Thank you, Beverly.
I remember that class really, really well. It was a class on She Who Is. Have any of you read a feminist theologian who spoke about images of God from women's experience? And her dear husband, Paul, was the one who had seen the notice for the class and had said to Bev, who's brand new, I think you ought to go to this class because there's probably going to be some cool people there that you would like to meet. And there were. I was there, and TRISHA was there. There were a lot of cool people. And I remember her walking in the door. And you know how some people have a vibrancy, an energy that is just irresistible? It's like this woman is alive. She is so alive, so curious, so smart. I can see you walking in the door. You had boots on. And she had this great accent. We loved her accent. But that vitality, that deep commitment to life, to living it fully, living it well, over the 25 years that TRISHA and I have known her, she has stayed true to that liveliness and will continue, I'm sure, to give life. I just love having her as my friend.
Anyway, the thing that I want to say most about Bev is that I think she is the person who is just love. I have never met anybody who has such a capacity for love. I have felt that. I'm sure a lot of other people here have felt that deeply, and she has changed my life. Thank you.
So I want to, every year when Yinka and I are putting the 4 years groups together, we would just do it at random, and like dealing cards, and then I would take the groups of either 6, 7, or 8 groups of 12, 13, 14 people, and just put them in front of her and say, what about this mix? Do we have any groups that might have 2 people that would challenge someone to a duel on the steps after at 12:05? And so I'd spread them out, and she would be quite silent for a few minutes, and then she would say, well, here are 2 people that might clash just slightly over the course of the year. And then another comment about this person has had some problems over the year, and here is another person who helped them very much. We might continue that if we put these 2 people in the about 30, 40 times I thought, how do you know this? It was not only demonstrating 18 years of caring, but a marvelous memory for sensitivity. And so I felt like saying thank you for all of us, from all of us.
All right, so as I said, Beverly baptized my first baby. Oh, well, my only baby, but my baby was her first baby.
So that was delightful in and of itself, because I'd been on a hiatus away from church, and 9/11 had come and scared the hell out of me. And so I came back to church, and I brought the baby, and then Beverly baptized him. But my story is not about that. May the 3rd, 2006, I was in the midst of a move, and my husband Chuck fell down the basement steps and died. And I was coming out of Grady Memorial Hospital with my mother-in-law and her then boyfriend, who was taking us back to his car to drive us home, in a underground parking garage. It was dark and it was dim, and I was not myself. Anyway, I heard my voice and my name, and I turned, and there was Jesus in a puddle of light, standing there. It was Jesus. And it was Beverly Elliott. And I walked up, and Beverly wrapped her arms around me in the worst moment of my life. And I can't tell you, Beverly, how much that meant, even that, and still, even now, means. And the daughter, who's now 18 and has her own job and has moved on, I thank you for her as well. So thank you, Beverly. I love you.
You all know I'm Linda Clare. I just want to thank you, Bev, for, first of all, the centering prayer groups, although I don't attend as much as I did, but I used to all the time, and you've been dedicated to that. But my journey with the Labyrinth, I traveled to Portland, and one of the requirements of coming back and getting certified was to do 4 facilitations, and Beverly helped me through that. And I thought, where am I going to find a Labyrinth? And Beverly told me about Lisa Persons, who had her own Labyrinth through a fellowship she had done. And just that support of the Labyrinth. But there's other things, personal things. I don't know if anybody has this thing, but I have 2 younger brothers, and for years, before my new sister-in-law, which is in about a year ago, I just had brothers go to where their wives want them to go for Christmas. And I always had to make up something at Christmas. And Beverly had me over for her to dinner on Christmas Day with some friends of hers from Britain. And she's also helped me financially with raking leaves in her yard and all that. It's just, the warmth is just there. And I'm so going to miss you for that loving support and warmth. And then just one final thing that nobody has mentioned. What great sense of humor that Beverly has. And I have often been in the office where people are laughing and seen Mac and Beverly doing little jokes with each other that were apparently inside jokes, I don't know. And she just has a great sense of humor, and I'm going to miss you, Bev. Yeah.
Well, I think we have you covered in your spiritual gifts, but I wanted to thank you for your administrative gifts. I will miss you whirling out here in the morning before the 8 o'clock service, straightening out the little table here, making sure the chairs are right for Sunday school, whirling around, and for carrying this church for how many years was it? A year or 2 years? It's like you were that person with the plates, you know, keep them all spinning and in your hand. I'm amazed that you did that. And when you would ask, how are you doing, Babs? You just, I'm good, I've got this. And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Started here at St. Bartholomew's about 15 years ago when my spouse and I, who was my girlfriend at the time, started coming here. She was here. I joined her. And it wasn't long after that I started beginning to informally tinker around with the idea of discernment for orders. And I would sit with Bev for hours in different stages of this process. And the amazing sense of calm and stillness that she shared with me during some of the most emotionally roller coaster times. And for anyone who's been near someone who's gone through discernment and on to ordination, they're not necessarily smooth sailing all the time. But regardless of what was going on, I always knew that Bev was there. she had a stillness about her that always centered me and brought me back to where I needed to be on my journey. And then to culminate all of that, she was one of my presenters when I was ordained last December. And it was just such an absolute blessing for her to be there with Julie and Sarah Ward, who's not here tonight, and present me from this parish for ordination. And I just want to thank you for your being part of that journey and for always being that amazing, still calm that I knew I could count on.
After worshiping 12 years as a Baptist and 55 years as a Missouri Synod Lutheran, I really wanted a church that promoted women in ministry and prayed to be led someplace where there would be women in ministry and there would be a lot of mission and outreach, and that would be very inclusive. And when I came, I knew I wanted to be confirmed so that I could serve in all the ways that's required to serve. And I think I was in one of the largest confirmation classes. Bobby was in it, and Deb, and Paige Love, and then we did Living the Questions, and Bev has really been instrumental in being here for Wednesday night classes. Then we started a Wednesday morning Bible class, and she's definitely been part of my spiritual journey away from churches that said you had to believe exactly these things to receive your crown. And it's been wonderful to be with her on that journey. And when she and Paul became citizens was December 20th, 2013. Because I was privileged to be there and took a photo. So anyway, you are very much loved, very much appreciated, very much respected, and you do have a great sense of humor, and thank you.
Robin and I will always be very, very grateful that we were your first marriage. But what I remember the most, sometime later, we were in an evening class, and you were there or leading it, something like that. And I had a little plastic bottle of water, and in drinking it all, I made a big noise by sucking it down and making it collapse. And you called me out on it. I have since come to learn that you have something that I'm not sure you show very much. It's a courage and a fierceness about what you do that I really, really appreciate. Thank you.
Beverly, dear, I don't have a specific story to tell or anything too special. I just want to say that for 18 years I have loved you with all my heart, and I wish you well going forward.
There's one thing I don't think anybody has mentioned, the Thanksgiving lunch that Bev started quite a number of years ago. And I had the pleasure of coming to 2 or 3 of those. And I thoroughly enjoyed them. And everyone who came and is still coming greatly appreciate all of your efforts and your thoughtfulness. And we will miss you.
The first thing I want to say is that Georgia's up 21-7 in the fourth quarter. And there's 10 minutes left. So just want to let you know. Beverly, thank you for sharing Paul with us as well. It's been an honor and a privilege to get to know Paul better and to see the love that you have for each other, and that's been a really special thing. When I was sitting next to Paul in the congregation about a month ago, you ended a reading that said that the exalted will be humble, and the humble will be exhausted. And for sharing these interpretations of the Bible have been so so precious to me. Because sometimes we all feel just a little exhausted. And Paul looked over to me and said, "Isn't that true?" That was... Cheers, and thank you for sharing, Paul, and your love for each other with us.
I could tell tales of Beverly's pastoral care for us, especially when I had surgery, but I'm not going to go there. What I want to talk about is one of the things I'm really going to miss the most, Bev, and that's at the Camp Michael dance. You've been Lady Gaga, you've been Cher, and I think you were Madonna at least once. You are a fashion icon. And is she not? And also one of the best dancers, and getting out in the line dancing. I'll miss you so much. But thank you for that spirit.
I'd just like to say this was the most difficult part of the planning process. Who was going to get the Lady Gaga with?
I know. Yeah. That's really good.
It's hot. Am I beautiful?
The paparazzi don't have anything on it. Other people. Anyone else want to come and share a word for Beverly?
Well, I'll say.
To perhaps end it, but I'd like to talk about the beginning. And I remember very distinctly meeting Paul and Beverly the first Sunday they came to St. Barts. They had just arrived. I don't remember the whole... 3 days before. And I was, of course, drawn immediately to their accents. And but I had such a delightful conversation with them, and I said, "I hope you'll come back." And I'm so glad you did.
As said, we came in 94. Oh. Want to say hello to everybody? Y'all. So we came in 94. I convinced Bev on a holiday on an island in a Great Barrier Reef saying, "I want to go to American studies." She goes, "Oh." I said, "How long?" I said, 3 years. As a doctor, I'm smart to knock it over at 4. 10 years later, after arriving in St Barts, I got it. The day we arrived, confused, jet lagged, afraid, all their friends and family in Australia, knew nobody. And so, a very dangerous feeling, coming as an alien, undocumented, but documented, had a passport. And so I saw the sign from the apartments, went up. We never heard of the Episcopal Church. We're Anglicans. So well, we'll give it a go. They're up the street, come in, and they said, well, Anglican. I thought, oh, really? And their graciousness, we loved first time. I came from a small parish with 80 people, 4 churches, come here, this is huge. Look at the building, And then the people were big in the building. The hearts, that is. And we felt loved immediately. And taken to foyers. The same day, we were taken to lunch with Ross Nankerville and his wife, of blessed memory. Big feast. I thought, Jesus, people eat one like this country, And they went to foyers. Yeah, I think.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
I'm welcoming, if anything.
And so we're accepted and loved. I say to Bev, we found a family we didn't know had in another country. That's huge for me, because once you're family, you got family, and they stand by you. And go forward, and 13 had a heart attack, that I could bounce back and have the surgery, back at work, and then on November the 28th, I had a stroke, and I left Emery in a wheelchair and couldn't talk. I could say French 5 words, but English wasn't good. And so, this is a crisis now because I needed constant daily care. Bev took off like 6 weeks and did the care. I could see her falling down the hill, but this is not good. Then we got hair come in, and then some to a collection from here. And it's $28,000. And it paid for the care. It's $20 an hour, 7 days a week, or whatever. And it ran out the time I could get up and drive again and do. The love I felt from you, Bev, who drove me to therapy and kept me going and up and onwards, is a wonderful gift. I thank you and Bev and her family for becoming a person that's part of the family. Thank you.
Things is $195. So if you play the lottery, 3 digits, 195, add them up, multiply them, that's a number for you to carry forward and win. So while you all were speaking, I jotted down a word to share back to you. Stood with, that's my job, vulnerable, different, wonderful. Have listened, a comfort, cheerful, invited, committed to life, just love, sensitivity, Jesus, thank you, support, humor, amazing, calm, instrumental, courage, loved, appreciation, Paul, and fashion icon. So I believe that it is correct in terms of the history, that you are the longest serving, perhaps clergy person, but at least priest in the 65 years of this congregation. And that is extremely unusual in any congregation, particularly for an associate. And it's quite clear that you have left behind big footprints that no one will be able to fill. Your pastoral care has been extraordinary. And I want you to know how much I appreciated your sermon the first Sunday in October, when you talked about your journey, your and Paul's journey here to this country, and finding this place to call home. It was quite extraordinary. And if you've not listened to it, I encourage you to go back and listen to it, because it gave me an insight into who you are and your connection here, which is wonderful. So I have enjoyed working with you. I've appreciated a little insight you have given to me about St. Bartholomew's history that is not written and can be found in no one's book, but that you carry within your mind and in your heart. So thank you.
I did write some notes. I thought this moment might come up. But if the Indians, if people are getting a bit restless, I am going to be quick. So we know that there's more fun to follow. I would say I have put some little mementos that I've been given over the years as I try and extricate myself from my office, that I can't take everything. So I put them in the tailor room, and if you would like to go and see if there's something that attracts your attention, and especially for my beloved children here, if they see something that they would like, I would love for you to take it and somehow show me what you chose, so I know who got what. So in perspective, in 2001, May 2001, I was at General Seminary in New York doing an Anglican Studies year. And I had a phone call from Nan Baxter, who was an assistant priest. At that time, she had been a supervisor for me and a mentor when I was doing my MDiv at Candler School of Theology. Anyway, so sitting in my little room in New York, she says, "Beverly, I think you might be interested in St Bartholomew's." we hadn't really had anything to do with St Bartholomew's since the first year we were in America in '94, so we're up to 2001 now. Susan Latimer, the associate priest that was here, had gotten a position, and I think it was Maine, and she went to be rector. And Nancy, who was always on the inside of information, said, it's not public yet, but I want you to know. I was actually interviewing at another place, and the day I got on the plane to fly down to St Barts to be interviewed, I got back to my room to go to the airport, and there was a message on the voicemail saying, we liked you, you interviewed well, but we're going with a younger woman. So I don't frown. They had reasons and purposes. This is how God works. Anyway, so I came down and I interviewed with the vestry, because they had to employ me because the interim at that time was Jim Curtis. And so the vestry interviewed me. Dick Mosry, he's not here, one of our faithful 90-year-olds, he said, he asked me about my stewardship, and when my answer was good enough, he said, okay, you'll do. And so I phoned Jim Curtis and said I was very interested in St Bartholomew's. And I was taken on by the vestry. I started in June. My first day at work, Jane Parker, the then senior warden, dropped by to give me my employment agreement, which was on the smallest yellow post-it you can find. And it had a few numbers on it, like what my salary would be and what my benefits. And Mac told me before he left, it's still in my personnel file in Angela's office. So we've come a long way since then and had several agreements. I started with overseeing children's and youth formation and so on, and then moved on to overseeing the pastoral care adult formation. This week, looking back, with nearly 2 weeks we'll have. Sometimes it's only, I think, when we look back that we can see what God's been up to in our individual lives, and in this case, in our corporate life together as a community of faith. I think remembering that we didn't start any of this 65 years ago or when I arrived or whatever, that God is the initiator of all, and we have tugs and pulls in our hearts and we respond. And so tonight we sort of can, after 18 years, I feel like I can look back and with you as a community and see what God has been up to with us. I arrived here in that May 2001. I was 48. I was an experienced woman in terms of employment history and so on, but I was a newbie priest. And I walked in feeling very much like an imposter. And I had a little idea of what it would look for me. I travelled Paul's journey from seminary through parish life, but it's so different when you're the different person. A bishop in Australia told us that it takes about 5 years to be formed as a priest, and looking back, I would say that's about right. So you probably got 13 good years out of me. You're a community with a history of ministering to seminarians and to new priests. You're known for your music outreach. We are known for our music outreach. Good liturgy, now contemplative life through Amison House, and less known is how many seminarians you've supported and new priests that you've launched into their vocations. When I came, I was so welcome. Somebody on my first Sunday said, I hope you won't leave too soon. Everybody else leaves after 2-3 years. We're sick of that. And so I took you at your word. I'm sure there were doubts about me. I know there were questions about whether you would ever understand me and my accent. What I appreciate is that you did laugh with me at my blunders and mistakes, the most recent one being, thank you, Ted, where is he? Thank you, Ted. So it is true that last time I read the gospel at my ministry here, I said the humble will be exhausted. And I didn't make a fuss out of it, I just looked around to see if anyone noticed. Thanks. But the first time I read the gospel, I can't remember the exact reading, but I know a few people here, but I walked down proudly. I was still a deacon. It was my big job, my big moment. I walked down in the middle of the aisle and with my loudest, best voice, read the gospel reading, and it was meant to say, and Jesus did something, and I said, Jesus sent a telegram. And I kept going, and I could see Kerry Lockerman was just to my shoulder. She was laughing, and then there was the ripple of laughter. So my entree with the gospel and my ending with the gospel has had a certain vulnerability to it. You laughed with me with that. You tolerated my efforts to learn to chant and accepted when I had to give up on that. You've trusted me with your stories. You've forgiven me when I've needed forgiveness for either being too indirect or too direct, and my other transgressions. And I'm not saying this to be cute. I've broken expectations. I have made blunders, been full of myself, didn't accept myself and my gifts enough and too apologetic at times. And that's hard to do publicly, all that. And you've travelled there with me, and I see you doing it with our current seminarians. This past week I had a few days on retreat as a way of looking back. I took with me all my old calendars. I had them from 2002. And I went through them and wrote down each of the ministries that I had been touched base with you all on, and recognised the gifts and passions each of you have brought to the fore and invited me into. Like Linda Claire Stead, Susan Latimer, my predecessor, had started Right 13 the year before I came, and she had also introduced the labyrinth and spiritual practices, and I was able to come in and continue those ministries with you all. I didn't start anything. God was on the move and I connected. You gathered with me as we formed groups for breast care support, grief, caregiving. Gathered round Charlie Gearing as he led us all into Kids for Peace programming. We walked in Pride Parade. I'd never done that before. It was such public, wonderful thing to do. You all led me into that. You joined me in interest around women's table talk, living the questions, Taizé, L'Arche, Amerson House. And that's about one page of the things you all either initiated, I got to join you with, or you let me respond to my own passion. What stands out about the calendars is that we do support one another when they have a niche for a particular ministry. And we know how to listen to someone when someone says, I would like us to go down and stand vigil at death penalty, around the death penalty. We supported one another in getting training and doing lots of... you all have done that. So I need to finish. I have had the best staff experience of my careers. It was just an amazing time to be here, and the friendship, Kristen's here tonight, and the support and the fun. It was just, and the prayer, sitting in silence, all the things that just made for an extraordinary staff experience. Paul, I appreciative of how he cared for Paul and me during his little medical misadventures, and also when I had breast cancer. And how you witnessing how you care for one another as all the different life events happening, and as we will continue to, just people. And so thank you for saying, well, continuing to say yes to God and to the gifts of one another. It's just been the best experience. I want to say thanks to my beloved Paul. His commitment and willingness to travel with me through this time of change has been extraordinary. Thank you, Paul. So team, we get ready and we look to a new day with new joys and new possibilities.
So Beverly, I get to stand by her and hug her right now. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your example. Thank you for your love. Thank you for all the things. You know what they are. So on behalf of the parish, we have 2 small gifts to give you. The first, do you like the wrapping?
I do, yeah.
On the wrapping.
Aww.
So this is, we all know Beverly to say this from Sunday to Sunday. Earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and that shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven, the hallowing of your name. Do you want me to read it all? Anyway, this is from us to you, and so a little gift of our thanks. And then there's another little something for you to enjoy on your journey, wherever that leads you next.
Thank you.
So. I wanted it to be wrapped well. So we want you to be able to journal your next season and use lots of color.
Okay.
It's a journal and markers, and so before we dance, because we're going to dance.
Yes, you are.
We're going to dance. I am going to we just want to give a blessing for those, because some will not stay for the dance, but you should. Because if you haven't seen Beverly dance, it's a big deal, and she'll be wearing the hair. We're going to use this blessing that we all know so well, this Irish blessing. And it is may the road rise up to meet you. And I was doing some research on it, and it says that the wind can be likened to the Spirit of God. The sun's warmth in the prayer reminds us of the tender mercies of God. The soft falling rain speaks of God's provision and sustenance for you and for Paul. And finally, we are reminded that we are held safe in God's loving hands as we travel on our journey through life. So, Paul and Beverly, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Lovely. Thank you.
And now we dance.
Hello, I am Grace Matthews, and I have had the pleasure of meeting both Reverends Elliot, Mrs. Beverly, and Mr. Paul. Peter Paul.
I'm also a priest.
Yes, I know that.
Road priest.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've been coming to St. Barts since 2011, and I found it very close to my house, very convenient, and the people are extremely warm. Very nice. This young lady, Mrs. Greene, she introduced me to the Altar Guild, and I have been serving ever since.
The altar mark.
Yes, and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure each time we come in and serve. She has since retired, but I'm carrying on the legacy.
She's very good. She's the best.
Your Reverend Elliot came to my house while I was out on sick leave. I had an operation for my hip, and she came to my house to give me Holy Communion and to extend her friendship, her warmth and friendship, and I found it very nice. At first I didn't want to talk about it. I just finished telling her how shy I was, and here I am talking about it. But it was a very nice session. Not only we prepare the communion kits that goes out in the community, but to have it come back to me, I found that was very nice. Thank you very much.
Rev Bev, there are no words to describe how much you have meant to this church, but also to just our family. I met you first when you took Susan Latimer's place in the women's spirituality group, and I was there for your ordination. And I just want to say I think you have brought unspeakable talents and grace and God's love to the people here. You were part of the formation for both of our children, in particular for our daughter Megan. She went to South Africa with you, and I know she bonded so much with you on that trip. And you subsequently did her wedding, which I think is the only wedding that's been on the Labyrinth. I want to just thank you for all of the many, many, many blessings that you've brought to others in the church here, which I have observed and seen, all the teaching, all the spirituality, the centering prayer. There's just so many things that you have been a part of that have been part of our spiritual growth, and in particular mine. So I wish you all of God's grace and blessings going forward, and know that wherever your journey takes you, your gifts will be appreciated and known, and God blesses you. Thank you.
And I second all that. And besides, you taught me how to speak Australian, or at least understand it.
My name is Harriet Kay, and the first time that I ever attended St. Barts or met Beverly was in, I think, 2001, or maybe early 2002, but I'm pretty sure it was 2001, for a Magdalene celebration. And Beverly was preaching. I wasn't Episcopalian, I wasn't a member of St. Barts, but I was really taken with her style of preaching, and I just really enjoyed the community. And so I started coming to some services here, and over time, after attending a parish weekend, I realized that I really enjoyed the community so much and the people so much, and I thought, you know, I think this is church home for me. So I became a member of St. Barts, and then was just so blessed to be able to have Beverly as not only a spiritual advisor and mentor, but someone who really was a friend. Got the opportunity to attend a pilgrimage with her. Got the opportunity to be, to where? South Africa. And just really, just walked a lot of change in my life, and she was there. And someone put it today that she has a unique way of being able to hold space for people, and space for people in their circumstances, and space for people in questioning. And really it was her, her mentorship that really helped me to get to a point of living with mystery, and that was okay. I've had the opportunity to be a friend, a neighbor, a parishioner, and I just love her, and I'm going to miss her. And I've moved in recent years, so I don't live in Atlanta anymore, but I still consider St. Barts home, and it's home because of the people. So I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share about my relationship with Beverly and St. Barts.
I found it hard to know where to begin, even talking about how grateful I am, my family is, for Bev's presence and ministry. But I think what I'm going to miss the most is her preaching. There's something about, I think, the way she speaks honestly from her own life, and many of her stories about her family, about her experiences as a nurse, about her own struggles, as a person in the world. I think those are the things that stick with me. That it's always helpful when you have the sense that someone is preaching to themselves, or working through what the text means for their own life, and then inviting the rest of us into that. And in that sense, I think Bev has really been a model of honest questioning and spiritual searching. And I'm going to miss her preaching and her warm hellos and genuine interest in my children and me.
My name is Neva Corbin, and I have been very aware of the love that you have shared with this parish and the family that you have become a part of, as in being family to us and our being family to you. But the thing that no one has mentioned, and the thing that I have noticed the most, is that in the days, really in the days before you resigned, and certainly in the days thereafter, you have showed an elegance and a dignity and a regalness that I'm not sure many people could have shown under the circumstances. I have been very aware of your refusal to sink to a level that would have been entirely appropriate and entirely expected. The way you have kept your dignity and your style and your idealism through all of this horrible experience has been remarkable and something that I will remember forever. I have known people who have been through it. I have been through it. And doing that is an absolute act of the highest, well, I can't express it. It's something that most people are not capable of and that many people do not even aspire to. Congratulations. I am totally in your honor.
Okay. Hi, Bev. As I was telling you last night, the first time I remember talking to you was after you had officiated at the Eucharist, and I said something about how glad I was you were using inclusive language. And before I knew it, you had me organizing a group of people to put on inclusive language liturgies, and we did that for several years, and I'll never forget your helping me do that. I'll never forget your visiting me in the hospital when I was sick, and I'll never forget a million other little times that you listened to me and were there, and I love you, and I'll miss you, and I wish you all the best in what comes up next for you.
Hello, Beverly. Just a quick word from another person with a funny accent. Absolute privilege and pleasure knowing you and working with you on various activities. One of the things that definitely came to mind is when my son Ian came down with appendicitis. You popped into the hospital and prayed for him before he went into an operation, so that was very meaningful to us and myself and Ian. I wish you the very best in your next career, wherever that may be, and anytime Australia is definitely high on our bucket list, and so we'll probably consult with you on some of the places. I have been to Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne on business, but that's different from actually going to play and having fun. So anyway, absolute pleasure. Best wishes. Thanks. Cheers.
I'm grateful for how Beverly has brought the inclusive language into the liturgy, and I often remember her prayer I think it's at the end of the service, where she says, "Earth maker, pain bearer, life giver." So I really appreciate how she's opened us up to that idea and that part of God. And I just appreciate her presence among us and the way she can do deep listening and really meet you where you are. So thanks, Bev, for all of that.
Hey Bev, we love you. You mean the world to us. You were there the day Katie was born. You said a blessing over us, and you baptized Katie, and you've been there for us for every big moment in our life. And we really love you. Best of luck, and just know how much we care.
Beverly is amazing because she's just so happy and cheerful all the time and is always looking out for everybody else. She genuinely is looking out for everyone and is so full of love all the time.
What Beverly Elliott means to me. I was ordained December 15th of last year to the vocational diaconate, and from the very beginning of my discernment process, Bev was an absolute, complete, and total supporter of me throughout the whole process. And I can't imagine going through it without her. She was a rock and
Hey Bev, it's Chris Bean from sending you greetings from here in New Jersey, and just thinking so much about you and your time at St. Barts and what you've meant to me. A couple of things come top of mind, and the first is that I really love the contemplative spirit that you brought to the 6 p.m. service whenever you were the celebrant. I remember when you first started bringing music and your boombox so that we could have some lovely contemplative music during Eucharist. I think you know that we 6 o'clockers really embraced and loved that service and had a very tight community, and I really appreciated the care and respect and, again, just gentle contemplative spirit that you brought to that service. And the second thing that comes to mind has to do with when I left St. Barts in Atlanta, when I moved back here to New Jersey where I grew up, and you sent me off at both morning services with a lovely blessing and a laying on of hands. And I just felt so loved and cared for, as sad as I was to leave you and St. Barts in Atlanta. It made me feel so loved and cared for. So thank you for that. And now I just wish so much of that love and care for you. I wish you many blessings in this next phase. And in the words of our Green Bough rule, I especially wish for you many encounters with the sacrament of the present moment. Lots of love to you, Bev.
From Jerusalem and Palestine and education for peace. And, after thinking about it for a little while, we couldn't help but say, yes, that's what we were going to do. And so Sally came and participated in the summer camp. I think that was either the first or the second summer camp that was held in Atlanta. And then following that, we got more involved in the program. And the opportunity to meet the dedicated and committed and smart and engaging and funny people that were involved in that and were so committed to that was just a marvelous experience for us. And so I just want to say to Beverly, thank you for sort of bringing that opportunity, to us and to our family, and to everybody in St. Bartholomew's Church who were touched by Kids for Peace. And thanks, Beverly.
Hi. Mine is not funny, but one thing I'm really thankful for about you, Beverly, is I think you're really good at death. So I'm thinking about your Sunday school class where you were so honest and thoughtful and brought so many different angles, thinking about your own journey with losing your mother, but also thinking about when my mom died suddenly a few years ago. I went to a therapist that was kind of meh, but I went to your office, and it was very uplifting and helpful to sit with you, and especially the way that you're able to just hold space with people. And I think you're also really good at just holding space with us in times of life and joy as well, but that was a particularly meaningful memory for me, so thank you.
So on the flip side of that, I'd like to say thank you for being part of the baptism of my kids, being there for their supporting us through all that time, and just really making, when we had those discussions before the baptism, was really making me think about how the church has played a part in my life over all these years and all the places I've lived. So I want to thank you for that.
Use both. I don't even know really where to start because Beverly's been here, or I've been here the whole time Beverly's been here, and you've touched every member of our family, both Ted and I, and you've come to celebrations for Ted at work. You were on pilgrimage with Margaret, so our first one to go on pilgrimage. You baptized Aaron Rose. We believe that's one of your first baptisms, the first time you baptized somebody, because I think I was pregnant when you came. And you actually, we're pretty sure you gave Bridget her first communion at Epiphany, before you were even here, and before we were here, when we were just very new to Atlanta and not grounded in a church yet. So, and our girls all have communicated with us in the last 24 hours to make sure that you know how much they love you too. And thank you for all the support. I can't even, Godly Play and Bible schools and Kids for Peace and just everything that you've been with us for. We love you.
I just want to say thank you to you, Beverly. The first time that I came to St. Barts, I filled out the card, like the priest says in service, and I got an email on the Tuesday saying, we're starting newcomers to St. Barts class. Would you like to join? I'm the one that you may have met with the Australian accent. And it was just after I had gone to my local parish about 4 times, filled out the card, not heard anything. And it was such a warm, welcoming statement that I said I have to come back. So you're responsible for me being here. Thank you.
Beverly, on behalf of the Mulder family, we've been here as long as you have too. In fact, twice as long as you have. But we've been through many of the changes here. And as many other people are speaking, there's many gifts you brought. But one gift I want to just share with folks here is that Beverly has the gift of being open to new ways of worship. And when my daughter, who went to South Africa with you on a trip and bonded with you, and then came and said, well, I want to get married at the church, but I want to get married outside, you were willing to work with her, and I think so far we've had the only wedding on the Labyrinth. And it was a beautiful ceremony, and it was beautifully done, and that's just one of many, many things that we'll always thank you for.
Hi, I'm Barbara, and I have only been here a little over a year. I was in the same class with June Ann, and I came here under some pretty broken personal circumstances. My husband had unexpectedly died, and 2 years ago now, and my church, which had been my church home, our church home for 16 or 17 years, there was a unfortunate event that happened that caused me to leave that church. And so I came to St. Barts and found my immediate home, and you were such an important part of that. And it just so happens that Beverly lives next door to my middle son, and so I know where she is. And I told her she's never getting rid of me because I can come to her door. Thank you for everything.
And it was kind of, for us, it was like, okay, we're coming back to St. Bartholomew's, and we're transferring all letter, and we're just getting on with it. And you took time with us to say, okay, there's process involved with this, and there's thought involved with this, and I hope I've got the right angle for whoever's doing what with this. But thank you for taking the time to make us think about it spiritually and thoughtfully, and to go through process with that, which I think we've done, but thank you for making us think about that and process all that and be intentional about it and not just mechanical or process about it. So a couple of years down the line, thank you for that. It worked.
Well, Bev, we thank you for being there through the many joys and sorrows in our lives for so long now. But I'm especially remembering right now one of the joys. When Logan was a Cub Scout, he had to do this big project that involved pizza and Christianity. Do you remember this? And he had to come bring it and show it to Bev and go through it. That was part of the work of it. But one of the parts of the Pizza Christianity mission, he had to write something about Bev. And he wrote, "I'm grateful for Reverend Beverly for teaching me about," you ready? "The Trinity." So thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, Bev, one picture's worth 1,000 words, so I brought one of the pictures we have in our house of Katie at her baptism, and we've got another one that's on her desk that's been there for the last 10 years. So you will remain in our hearts. You were there at Meg and I, our house blessing, and sent us on our way and went through us with a journey and prayed Katie into being wherever she is. So you have just been a part through all the various joys and traumas of our life, and you stay with us and are in our hearts. Thank you.
Hey, Beverly, as I did last night, I captured a few words from what each person offered. Thank you. Kids for peace, good at death, but there's always a resurrection. Able to hold space with people, baptism and church, touched every member of a family. You are loved. Organization of pastoral care, amazing job, warm, welcoming email, open to new ways of worship, important part of life, taking time to encourage intentionality, being there for many joys and sorrows, teaching about the Trinity, that one's important. It is. Will remain in our hearts. So as I said last night, so Beverly, for those of you who don't know, holds a particular record here at St. Bartholomew's in 65 years. She is the longest serving priest, associate priest, but priest just in general. So with her many gifts that she has brought, she has left big footsteps that cannot be filled in an indelible place in the hearts of many. And so I thank you again for what you've offered to me, helping me to navigate and understand this complicated place with information you shared from your head and heart. It's a blessing. So thank you.
Harder investments, isn't it?
My first Sunday here in the parish in 2001, Jim Curtis was the interim priest, and he got me to stand up. I wasn't at the altar. He got me to stand up where I was, and at the peace, some people came to me too, and they said, "How long are you going to stay for? They keep leaving so quickly." And I didn't, anyway, if I only remembered who that was, I can say, well, I stayed 18 years. One of the things that's really clear after having time to reflect is that the formation of a priest, as your formation in the body of Christ and mine, and then as a priest, it happens through the mutual sort of traveling together, telling your stories, being as vulnerable and open as you can, and all the rest of it. And just about a week ago, I was talking in one of the groups here, and this image started to come to mind. What's happened for me here at St Bartholomew's is that I sort of arrived even as a late middle-aged, newly ordained person, I had skills and experience in other parts of my life and leadership and so on, that you still arrive as a priest, like I felt like I was a sort of bag that held all these sort of little pieces of rock, and then over time what's happened is I've been shaken up and the edges chipped off me, and then somehow in these last 3 or 4 years I feel like you've polished me off. You know, I feel like I know, I have had the chance here to grow, even though sort of this later in life call, chance to grow and be polished and know what my gifts are. And it's only because you shared in my life and formation. And St Bartholomew's has a ministry, as well as the other things that have given us identity over the years of outreach, good liturgy, good workshop, good worship, and now our contemplative space of forming priests and seminarians. And so thank you for doing that faithfully. You don't know how they're going to turn out. And I am one who got to stay out of that formation experience. Thank you for celebrating, putting time and energy into the party last night and into the morning tea and the cake. Thank you for everything you've done towards me and for me over these years. And the most unique thing will always be there was a parish for me to come to that God knew about, where I could truly be myself. And it's just been, you've let me be myself and shaped me even more into myself. So I hope you can keep doing that for one another. And I look forward to hearing the stories, especially of my little ones who've come up out of the baptismal font, and some have now stumbled through college. And just to say, in the Taylor room, there's some little mementos as I'm moving through my office, and especially for children, but anyone who just goes in there and sees that there's something you would like to take home, I'd love you to have it. Thank you again.
So, what do you want to say to Bev as your 18 years?
You know, I was just thinking about Beverly and I have a history. You know that, don't you? I was on the committee that hired her. And one of the questions I asked her during the interview, we had breakfast together over Toco Hills. And Jean, who was senior warden at the time, I can't remember who was senior warden at the time, but we had... Huh? Jane Parker. We had breakfast in a private room over Toco Hills. Excuse me. And in the course of our interview, and I asked all the applicants this, I said, "What is your position on stewardship?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Do you recognize stewardship as a means of getting everything we want?" She said, "Certainly." And we had a very good conversation. And from there on, she blended in with this church from the very start. And she took on different tasks that were very difficult. Because St. Bartholomew's is, I think, is unique in itself. We've always had more leaders than we had followers, which is not always a good thing. But we had a good relationship. all the way through. When my wife, Margaret, got sick, she would visit almost every week. And she would get right up in the middle of the bed, and they would have an hour conversation. And I'd sit over in the corner and listen. I didn't get to say very much, but it was a good relationship all the way through. And of course, Beverly has her good points and her bad points, like everybody else. And she was very adept to changing situations, and she would go with the flow, so to speak. And she was just a good person to know. She was not only my priest, she was my friend. And I loved every minute of her. She's not out of my life right now.
Hey, Bev. We just wanted to somehow sum up how much you've meant to us. It's impossible to do that in just a few words because you're an amazing person who's meant an incredible amount to us. But there is one thing that we really will always remember, and we wanted to give that to you because it's always going to be special to us. Earthmaker, pain bearer, life giver. We love you, Bev.
Thank you. I think the breadth of her thoughtfulness, because she's very good at looking past the obvious and considering a sort of a wider perspective on situations, on views, on commentary, and that's quite often helped me to slow down my own processes and wanting to sort of power through to my own conclusion and to think about things a bit more broadly. I very much admire the depth of her compassion and her willingness to sort of to strive to continue to be even more loving.
And what would you say the difference she made to you in terms of in your life as a priest?
Oh God! Undoubtedly, my life is richer in so many ways. There's a sort of, I suppose, the direct interaction of when we're actually in the shared space. There's a thoughtfulness, there's a playfulness. I very much enjoy the fact that the range, the spectrum of the engagement, the conversations, because we can go from the sort of quite silly and ridiculous at times to an engagement and discussions and sometimes differences of opinion of some considerable depth, either sort of on the personal nature or I suppose sort of more broadly across the broader human condition. And I really enjoy, in fact I revel in being able to share that kind of connection with someone who's got a very broad capacity, a very broad emotional, spiritual bandwidth.
And she was there for your blessing at Hilton Head?
Absolutely, she was there, but not to forget the blessing at the Hilton Head. She got up early, she managed to rally her husband as well, make our way down to the beach and yes, perform the service. They both took part in the service, but she took the lead in the service on the beach at Hilton Head, which for me was the real wedding. Not so much legal in the in by English law here, but that was very much the spiritual, the emotional engagement. Yeah, very memorable. The dragonflies, the pterodactyls, the dolphins. That was quite a show.
And your cheerio message?
Lovely to have you over here to entertain and look after and nurture. Glad we were able to provide adequate sustenance. And I think we've managed to have enough space for us to rattle around in the house without tripping over one another. Looking forward to having you back so that you can see the input and development that we made here, and also looking forward to coming over again to help with the spiritual direction yurt. Safe travels. See you soon.
What I'm grateful for, Bev, is the fact that you are such a loving person, and I always feel I get the warm fuzzies whenever I'm with you. I always feel loved and cared for, and I feel like we have a good connection. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for quite a few things. The fact that you like to eat, same as what I do. The fact that you like a massage, which, you know, good connection. Just really that you're a love. Oh, and one of the real things that I'm big grateful for is our wedding blessing on the beach. That was a wonderful thing, and we had an amazing dawn experience with the dragonflies and the pelicans and the dolphins off the beach and the sand sculpture that somebody had made. It was truly special. The thing I most admire about you, Bev, is that you're one of the most open-hearted people I have ever met in my entire life. And you are very, there's a good word, tender and delicate with people's feelings, and you're very mindful of the impact that you have on others that you're involved with, like me and Clem. So, all in all, you're just a fab person.
And the last one, what difference has Bev made in your life?
Well, two things. The first thing was lending me some of your books on English. No, I don't think they were all English. Christian mystics, women Christian mystics. That was a big deal for me in 2003. And the other big thing was introducing me to the idea that I could do my dreams in a group, that I could find a group eventually, which I did. It wasn't the same as was available at St Barts, but it took me a fair bit of time, and introducing me to the Hayden Institute, because my dream life has been a wonderful thing since I learned how to work with my dreams and share dreams with other people in particular. And I've shared a lot of dreams with you over the years, and that has been a true blessing to me. Thank you, Bev. Love you.
Greetings and peace from Rick, Pat, and Guinness in the great Pacific Northwest. It's fitting on Thanksgiving Day to remember what we're grateful for. And I'm especially thankful for Beverly and the many years we shared together at St Barts. I have a lot of wonderful memories of that time together. I'm happy to respond to the questions and share some thoughts about Beverly and what she means to me. What difference and lasting contribution has she made for St Barts? Beverly's made many contributions to several St Barts ministries that she either initiated or strengthened. I can think readily of a few where she's made a particularly lasting impression. First, there's the pastoral care ministry, offering support, comfort, and healing for so many parishioners struggling with loss or grief or illness. Another is a contemplative prayer ministry, and beyond that, Beverly's had a presence as a sort of spiritual guide or companion to the entire parish. And of course, she's provided leadership, creativity, and support for the adult formation program. What am I grateful for in Rev Bev's ministry? Beverly's welcoming and makes everyone feel comfortable. She has an ease of connecting deeply with everyone. Her sermons are thoughtful and thought-stirring. Her presence at the altar is outright radiant, and her gracious invitation to participate in the service of the church is open to us all. What do I admire about Beverly? I admire Beverly for her courage and her compassion and her conviction. She chose a career in healthcare and then one in the care of souls, and she's touched the lives of hundreds of people. What difference has Beverly made for me? Beverly is kind and considerate, and she has made me, as well as many others, feel welcome and valued. So finally, I'd like to wish many blessings and much love to Beverly and Paul.
We started coming to St. Barts just a few months before Beverly arrived in the spring of 2001.
We're grateful for all of Bev's ministry. We're grateful for her openness and hospitality to all. We're grateful for her sermons in which she has shared stories of decisive turning points in her own life. We also appreciate her sense of humor and spontaneity. She preaches without being preachy or too prescriptive.
I admire her courage in leading the congregation in times of change. She helped hold things together during the period when there was no rector. And she handled all this while dealing with some personal and family issues. All of this reflects great strength and commitment to St. Barts. We admire her warm, accepting presence and the consistency in her relationships with parishioners. Her pastoral care has helped many parishioners heal from emotional wounds, loss, and grief.
And she makes all of this look easy when it isn't. She has made many differences for us. She has led us to think beyond the parish, specifically about issues of social justice, such as the death penalty and LGBTQ rights.
Bev has made a difference and lasting contributions to St. Barts through Sunday morning adult formation classes, which she has led and inspired others to lead on a wide variety of contemporary spiritual topics. Thank you, Bev, for everything that you have done for St. Barts and for us.
Thank you.
Gracious God, lead our hearts and minds as we grapple with the meaning of being part of the kingdom of God. Amen. Imagine this. It's a country far away, and I want someone to tell me its name. In this country far away, it gets hotter the further north you go and gets colder as you go south. A country where you drive on the left-hand side of the road and passengers sit on the right-hand side of the car. No, the other way around. Yeah. Where it's considered democratic for elections to be compulsory. It's a nation, a country where the colour of the more liberal progressive political party is red and called the Labor Party, and the more conservative political party is blue and called the Liberal Party. Sounds also upside down, don't you think? And messes with one's brain. What country could it be? On this last Sunday in the church year, and as we look towards next Sunday, the first Sunday in Advent, we mark this day called Christ the King Sunday. Although Jesus never said he was a king, he did point to a kingdom that happens when the power of love reigns, especially the reversal is focused on the reversal to the normal way a country might be run or a kingdom run with a regular king. It's an upside down kingdom where the weak are the strong, where to love is to serve. The shocking image of this king is at the heart of the gospel reading today, and where we see this holy man, this teacher and healer, pinned to a cross between two criminals. This path that led him to the cross was the path of love. It was where he embraced and accepted the consequences of living out the new rules of this kingdom. Consequences of ending up on the cross, of speaking truth to powerful people and to poor villagers, of challenging systems of oppression, of naming forgiveness right until the end and on the cross. God's alternative reign was strong because of his vulnerability. Jesus' power was because he lived into the wounds of life and was able to show that his strength came through living the humble and vulnerable way. This way of living is the saving hope for us and the world, we believe. This day, this last day in the church here, seems the right time to look back over the last 51 Sundays and ponder how you might have participated in the inbreaking of this reversed type way of living God's kingdom. And it mostly come through moments you chose to be vulnerable, you chose to tell the truth, when you were willing to share the wounds of life with others, where you shared the power you had in your family or in your work with others, where you chose to consume and purchase a product that came from a just setting. In your weakness and vulnerability is your strength. There's another last Sunday being marked today, St Bartholomew's, and that would be my last Sunday as an associate in this parish. I've been here for just over 18 years, and it's God's time, the right time, to move on to the next call as you move on to your next call. And it feels surreal and impossible that I'm saying this. I feel like we've done a good job over the last 6 or 7 weeks of in little groups and individually together, looking back and noting the work we've done to build this kingdom of love and vulnerability, of letting ourselves be transformed by one another in the gospel. It's hard for me to know what to say, but if the culmination of all that we do and have done in this last 18 years is measured by how much we have learned to love and come to love, then there is something to say. Over the summer, I read a quote by Richard Rohr. He said something like, when in community, you cannot just make love happen. You live out the best practices you know of being a Christian and building a healthy community, which would mean to me like being real, forgiving, praying, accepting differences and even valuing them, listening to one another's stories, serving God together. Ross said, you cannot make love happen, but through these things, you discover love is present. I've discovered that love is present. Over the years, I think that this is what was happening. We, as the body that's here today to mark this changing point, there's many who've come and gone already. There are some new who will watch this moment of change with curiosity, but I hope also welcome. Those of us have lived out our weekly rhythm of life together. I've been with many of you in this weekly rhythm when you've been in really hard times, on days when you have not been your best self. And then you've seen me on my worst days, when I've been tired or bossy or bumbling and disconnected from myself. And we apologize to each other, but in a way we know it's not necessary, for the truth is it was through these bumbling, worst moments in our life of embracing one another that we went on to form deep bonds of love. We are here together today with the wounds from our lives lived well in the ups and downs, but also the wounds, the evidence of resurrection and new life. I've been loved and supported by you, and I've grown into a mature second career of being a priest. I'm aware I have gifts I did not know I had now, been polished by you, ready for this new life. You have been open to words or questions I might have brought you, and you've grown deeper into the mystery of God and your ability to love and accept. I've seen many of you become ready and willing to let go of your fears, find the courage to step up and take leadership in ways you couldn't have imagined possible. As we've travelled the 18 years, we've seen change in the community, but we're seeing a lot of change in the wider church. And we're here, adapting, finding God speaking into the new ways we will need to be church ahead. We've shared a lot, and it's now time, God's time, to let go and surrender the future, your future, my future, into God's hands. There's a prayer reflection that seems perfect for me to close with today. It's by an English Catholic religious named Edwina Gately. The prayer reflection tells of what happens when Christians come together in community and seek to be real with one another through telling their stories and living their life. She speaks of how in the telling and listening of our stories, we can see the pattern of Jesus' life breaking through. The ordinariness, the pain, the suffering, the death, the hope and resurrection that is the pattern of Christ that we see the lens through, from that lens through on our lives. Thank you for sharing your lives with me. Thank you for loving and supporting me into the priesthood. The sharing. We told our stories, that's all. We sat and listened to each other and heard the journeys of each soul. We sat in silence, entering each one's pain and sharing each one's joy. We heard love's longing and the lonely reaching out for love and affirmation. We heard of dreams shattered and visions fled, of hopes and laughter turned stale and dark. We felt the pain of isolation and the bitterness of death. But in each brave and lonely story, God's gentle life broke through, and we heard music in the darkness and smelt flowers in the void. We felt the budding of creation in the searchings of each soul and discerned the beauty of God's hand in each muddy, twisted path. And his voice sang in each story. His life sprang from each death. Our sharing became one story of a simple, lonely search for life and hope and oneness in a world which sobs for love. And we knew that in our sharing, God's voice with mighty breath was saying, love each other and take each other's hand. For you are one, though many, and in each of you I live. So listen to my story and share my pain and death. And listen to my story and rise and live with me.